Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, and you are taking a live look over New York City. That is where our next story takes us, as the new mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, spent the days after his election in Puerto Rico attending a conference. Now, the self-described Democrat socialist was elected by a huge margin this week to lead the country's largest city. Here's what he told reporters from Puerto Rico.
I'm so happy to be here in Puerto Rico, and that question was asked of me of where I would go outside of the country. And I'm happy to be here at Somos. And I'm happy also to be here because you cannot tell the story of New York City without telling the story of Puerto Rico. And even just going to that parade and Puerto Rico no se vende, the chants, the convictions of so many of a life of decency. And it's been a joy to be here. I'm proud to report that in the few hours I've been here, I've already had some mofongo, and it's great.
All right, again, those were some of the comments there by Zohran Mamdani as he's over in Puerto Rico for that conference. And right now, once again, taking a live look over New York City as Republican Congressman Buddy Carter of Georgia has introduced a bill aimed at redistricting the flow of federal taxpayer dollars to New York City while Mamdani serves as mayor. Carter's bill is called the Moving American Money Distant from Anti-National Interest Act, or the Mamdani Act for short. The congressman joining us now live to discuss all of this. Congressman, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And first off, can you kind of go back to basics and explain exactly what the Mamdani Act really does?
Well, first of all, I'm from Georgia. For 12 years in a row, we've been the #1 state in which to do business. We believe in capitalism here, and we certainly do not believe in communism, and we do not want our hard-earned money going toward those kind of policies. And that's what he has pledged to bring to New York City. So representing the taxpayers of Georgia, we don't want that. And that's not something that should be taking place in our country. Look, this is very serious. This is a very serious situation here. We could see a shift, and that's not something we need to see here in America. And what we're doing is we're going to limit the number of funds, with the exception, of course, of those that are required, Social Security, Medicaid, veterans benefits, and that type of thing, and mandatory spending. But everything else is on the table.
And how do you envision the bill's implementation working when you talk about in practice? How would all of that work?
Well, what you've seen as a result of the Biden-Harris administration and what they did with the Green New policies and all, and how the president and we in Congress have reversed a lot of those, we can do the same thing. And we can do the same thing in New York City if this comes about. And if indeed they start implementing these socialist policies. If you see free grocery stores and that type of thing, that's not capitalism. That's not part of America, and that's what we're trying to prevent here. Look, we can't allow this to happen in our country. This is very, very serious.
Do you see this bill, this act here, actually passing? Do you think that it does have a future? Do you have the support of your fellow lawmakers?
Well, I think if they look at it and they consider what is going on, then yes, I think it will have the opportunity to pass. I've had a real good response from members of our delegation, or I should say of our conference, who have responded to me and said, yes, they like this and they agree with this. Look, I think that Republicans, as well as some common sense Democrats, will agree that we do not need communism here in America, and that this is going to lead to communism. So that's why, yes, I do believe it does have a future.
On the kind of other side of that, what would you say to people who maybe do oppose this legislation?
Well, I would say just look at it and consider it. And the reason why, consider what the consequences would be if he is indeed successful. And what would happen to New York City? I mean, it would bankrupt New York City. Communism is nothing more than the mutually shared poverty, and that's what it would bring to New York City. New York City is a great city, and we can ill afford to lose it in our country. That's why we need to take action. You know, if Republicans learned anything this past week on Tuesday night, it was that we need to be on the offensive, not on the defensive.
As you kind of look at this as you kind of watch it play out here, have you spoken with President Trump about it?
I have not had the opportunity to speak to him about it, but we know what President Trump has said about this situation. We know that he has said that that communism is only going to make New York City worse. We know that he has said that he doesn't want to throw good money after bad money. So I know the president would be and looking at this favorably as well.
What are your overall thoughts, your reaction when you saw the results come in on Tuesday night, everyone kind of watching to see what happens because Zohran Mamdani had been leading in the polls significantly, but it did appear that maybe Cuomo was gaining on him a little bit. But to see Zohran Mamdani win by that huge margin, what was going through your mind at that point?
Well, I thought it was disgusting. I mean, I can't, and I still find, even today, now, that I'm in disbelief that this has happened, that he has been elected mayor of the largest city in America. And, you know, he is an anti-Semitic, socialist Islamist. I mean, he is one, and you know, the city with probably the highest population of Jewish people in America, and yet he's anti-Semitic. He's one who would not go back on saying that from the river to the sea. He is one that called what Israel was trying to do in Gaza genocide when they were defending themselves after October the 7th. He does not believe in the Jewish state. He is anti-Semitic, and to have this in the largest Jewish population city in America, I think, is disgusting. Not only that on Tuesday night, but also I found what happened in Virginia with the Attorney General who had called for his opponent and his opponent's children to be shot and killed. And he got elected. I thought that was disgusting as well. That's why I'm so worried about our country and where we're headed right now. That's why I truly do believe that Republicans need to go on the offensive now. We need to stay off of defense and go on offense.
My last question for you here. You talked, of course, about the AG race there in Virginia, also about Mamdani's election. When you look at that, does that signal anything to you about the future of the Democratic Party, but also the Republican Party? Does that tell you anything?
It tells me both. It tells me, first of all, that Mamdani is now the face of the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party has changed. It has now become a socialist party, and that is fearful in my mind. That should raise the fear in the ear of all Americans. It also tells me that the Republicans now have a greater responsibility. We have a responsibility to be on the offensive. We have a responsibility to make sure that we save this country, that we save it from communism, and that we make sure that capitalism does win out.
All right, Congressman Buddy Carter, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and to discuss this. Anything we missed? Anything you want to add here before I let you go?
God bless New York City. That's all I have to say.